For years, the names Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have been synonymous with the image of a couple defying royal tradition in pursuit of a life of freedom. They once captivated the world when they left Buckingham Palace behind to build a new future in America, promising to live authentically, love honestly, and give meaningfully. Yet after all the noise and headlines, that picture of a perfect, happy family now appears to be fracturing. Cracks have begun to show, from Meghan walking solo on red carpets to Harry struggling to find his footing in charitable projects that were once his greatest pride. And with each passing day, those cracks are becoming harder to ignore. A stark reminder that love alone is not always enough to withstand the crushing weight of fame and expectation. What's striking is that these fractures go beyond the private sphere. They now spill over into their careers and public image. Meghan, who once confidently declared she would be a symbol of independence and freedom, is now fueling speculation with actions many interpret as subtle hints of an impending separation. Meanwhile, Harry, the prince once celebrated as a hero in the military and in philanthropy, faces a sobering question. Does he still have the ability to inspire public trust, when even the charities bearing his name are mired in doubt and controversy? At the same time, their once glittering brand empire, once hailed as a money machine worth hundreds of millions through Netflix, Spotify, and various business ventures, has started to look more like a burden than a triumph. Meghan's much-hyped lifestyle brand, as ever, is faltering, seemingly adrift in an unforgiving market. Dreams of a grand Meghan-Harry empire now look more like broken promises than reality. And as one failed business venture follows another, the public grows increasingly skeptical. Are they truly visionary leaders with a higher purpose, or merely skilled at cashing in on the fading glow of royal fame? Adding fuel to the fire are their relentless PR tactics, which are now under more scrutiny than ever. From releasing documentaries and giving tell-all interviews, to staging highly dramatized public appearances, every move raises the same question. Are Meghan and Harry sharing the raw truth of their lives, or are they simply crafting yet another performance to hold on to the world's attention? If it's the latter, this may well be one of the boldest acts of theater in both celebrity culture and royal history. But if it's the former, the consequences could spiral far beyond their control, because it would mean that their love story, once hailed as a romance that defied destiny, is genuinely standing on the brink of collapse. As of August 27, 2020, the global spotlight burns hotter than ever, fueled by conflicting rumors and swirling speculation. The central question is no longer just, are Meghan and Harry breaking apart? But rather, how will they navigate this crisis? Will it end in a messy public split, complete with battles over wealth, children, and reputation? Or is this simply another calculated media strategy designed to keep their names spinning in the whirlwind of global headlines? The truth, perhaps, lies only in piecing together every fragment of the story. And in this video, we'll examine 12 key aspects, from Meghan's subtle signals to the implosion of the As Ever brand and the mounting controversies surrounding Harry's charities. Each detail, each question, brings us one step closer to the reality hidden behind the glittering facade. So if you want to join us on this journey into the dramatic undercurrents of their lives, don't forget to hit subscribe. Because the saga of Meghan and Harry has never been just about love. It is a mirror reflecting power, ambition, and the stark truths that lie beyond the spotlight. Once, Meghan and Harry stood as a united front, always appearing side by side, reinforcing each other at every turn. The public grew accustomed to the sight of Meghan clutching Harry's hand on the red carpet, or Harry standing just behind Meghan, offering quiet support as she delivered a speech. But in recent months, that unity has begun to unravel. Instead of moving in lockstep, the couple now seems to be scripting separate stories that may no longer align. One of the most talked about signs came when Harry was completely absent from Meghan's birthday posts. On social media, Meghan shared radiant, stylish images of herself, yet there was no trace of her husband. It might seem like a small detail, but in the current climate of tension, It instantly became a focal point. People began asking, has Harry chosen not to be present in his wife's milestones? Or did Meghan deliberately leave him out as a subtle signal? Adding to the intrigue was Meghan's appearance in her Netflix series, where she was filmed cooking alone. On the surface, the scene could easily be read as nothing more than a production choice, highlighting Meghan's independence as a modern woman. But to viewers long accustomed to seeing them as a close-knit family, the image carried another meaning. She wasn't just standing alone in the kitchen, she was, perhaps, signaling a journey of her own, one no longer shared with Harry. What might otherwise have been an ordinary sequence suddenly became another piece of evidence for those convinced the marriage is slipping into an unmistakable state of fracture. If signs of separation were already enough to raise alarm bells, the lack of mutual support has made the picture even bleaker. In the past, whenever one of them faced trouble, the other would immediately step in to defend and protect, like a shield against public criticism. Now, that reflex of solidarity seems to have vanished. Take Centibelu, for example, the charity Harry co-founded and long considered his life's work. Tied closely to the humanitarian legacy of his mother, Princess Diana. When the organization was recently hit by fierce scrutiny over financial transparency, Meghan maintained absolute silence. No words of support, no visible gesture of standing by her husband. Her absence was immediately seized upon by the Western press, framing it as evidence that Meghan has stepped back from Harry's problems, treating them no longer as shared responsibilities. The reverse is just as telling. Harry has been notably absent from promoting Meghan's lifestyle brand, as ever, a venture once touted as her chance to become a global business icon. When Meghan launched a major publicity campaign, many expected Harry to play a supporting role, if only by making a few appearances at events or in interviews. Yet he was nowhere to be seen. His absence not only deprived the brand of the momentum it needed, but also laid bare a difficult truth. The two no longer put each other at the center of their professional lives. A close source even drew a striking analogy. They are like two palm trees that once grew side by side but have now turned in opposite directions. The metaphor speaks not just to the professional distance, but to the emotional gap between them. For when two people who once leaned on each other now choose separate paths, it is no longer a matter of career differences. It is a widening void of intimacy that is harder and harder to bridge. What makes the tension even more fraught is their reported disagreements over the children. This is particularly sensitive, since both Harry and Meghan have always claimed that family is at the center of their lives. But in practice, differing views on parenting have become a fault line. Harry, who grew up under the relentless glare of the media spotlight and endured the trauma of paparazzi intrusion, is deeply cautious. He fears that exposing his children to public scrutiny could condemn them to the same fate he suffered, being hunted, dissected, and even emotionally scarred. For him, protecting Archie and Lilibet's privacy is a way of preserving at least a fragment of peace in an otherwise turbulent life. Meghan, by contrast, sees things differently. She views sharing everyday moments with their children as an extension of the family brand. To her, the image of a devoted, loving mother is not only true to life, but also an invaluable asset to strengthen her position in the media world. She is comfortable including the children in campaigns, framing it as a way to broadcast a positive message of connection and maternal warmth. This clash of perspectives has made compromise increasingly difficult. One longs for quiet protection, the other embraces visibility as part of a larger strategy. When the two cannot reconcile, even small daily disagreements can smolder into bigger conflicts. What's more, these tensions are no longer confined behind closed doors. They have spilled over into the public arena, where Meghan now projects an image of independence and autonomy. Once, she and Harry were inseparable, a couple always seen as a unit. Now, Meghan seems determined to seize the spotlight on her own, leaving Harry in the shadows. To some, this demonstrates her personal strength. To others, it's a telling sign that the bond once holding them together is thinning to its weakest thread yet. The cracks in the facade, from their increasingly separate public images, to the lack of professional support, to disagreements over their children, are beginning to paint a story few ever thought possible. What once seemed like idle speculation is now taking shape in visible details, in gestures and choices. And more than that, the fractures are spreading, no longer confined to private life, but etched into the way Meghan now presents herself to the world. If the signs of strain in their marriage and career had already sparked unease, Meghan's public image has only fanned the flames. One of the most hotly debated moments came in her much-anticipated Netflix series, where she had hoped to elevate her personal brand. In one scene, Meghan appears in the gleaming kitchen of a rented mansion, cooking a simple bowl of pasta. But it wasn't the food that drew attention. It was the jewelry adorning her wrists and fingers, worth a staggering $237,000, around $320,000. Most striking of all was a Cartier watch once belonging to Princess Diana, valued at $17,800. To many, it is not just a piece of jewelry, but a deeply symbolic heirloom, something thought to have been kept for Diana's sons. Seeing Meghan wear it while casually stirring pasta raised uncomfortable questions. Was it a gesture of reverence, or an attempt to harness Diana's legacy for the spotlight? Alongside it was the Cartier love bracelet worth $7,000, a gift from her ex-husband, Trevor Engelson. The details surprised and even unsettled many observers. On one hand, it portrayed Meghan as a woman unafraid to carry her past with her. On the other, it felt strikingly tone-deaf, showcasing a token from a former marriage while building a new brand with Harry, inevitably invited comparisons between the two relationships. Commentators were quick to point out how such a move could easily wound Harry. Adding to the tableau was a Jennifer Meyer tennis bracelet worth $2,000. Put together, the scene stopped looking like a portrait of domestic simplicity and instead resembled a jewelry showroom staged in a kitchen. Critics pounced, arguing that wearing an arsenal of high-value pieces while preparing food made her appear detached, even oblivious to basic norms. After all, most people remove their accessories before cooking. Instead of reinforcing Meghan's image as a relatable mother and modern woman, the moment fueled accusations of performance, ostentation, and, most controversially, exploitation. The presence of Diana's watch made it all the more jarring, with many arguing that such an intimate legacy was far too sacred to be used as a prop for a streaming show. The scrutiny did not stop at jewelry. Meghan has also been accused of leaning too heavily on her royal connections and even her children's image to prop up, as ever, her lifestyle brand. Though she has consistently claimed her goal is to build something warm, family-oriented, and authentic, critics argue the reality feels different. Every nod to the Windsor lineage, every carefully crafted interview seems calculated to keep the royal association alive, even after stepping away from the role of Duchess. Yet, despite weaving family imagery and even her children into the brand narrative, the payoff has been underwhelming. A telling example came when the Kardashian family received a lavish fruit basket from as ever and posted it on social media. Many assumed this would be the breakthrough moment, that a simple tag or direct endorsement would catapult the brand to overnight success. But the Kardashians never tagged Meghan, nor did they mention as ever by name. The post was little more than a photo of the fruit, leaving Meghan's brand entirely out of the conversation. The optics grew even more awkward when Meghan's mother, Doria, was photographed with the Kardashians. While Meghan herself was nowhere to be seen, the unspoken message was hard to miss. Even the Kardashians, arbiters of influence and visibility, appeared unwilling to stake their brand on Meghan's. It was a moment that laid bare not only the shortcomings of her PR strategy, but also the uncomfortable reality that, as ever, lacks the magnetic pull needed to truly take off. When the cushion of celebrity connections fails, Meghan is forced to rely on herself. Yet the way she manages her projects has increasingly been described as chaotic and unprofessional. From American Riviera Orchard to As Ever, the pattern feels familiar. A grand, heavily publicized launch, followed by long stretches of silence and sudden, unexplained changes in direction. Insiders reveal that Meghan frequently switches suppliers, sometimes on a whim if the products don't quite meet her personal aesthetic standards. This has led to delays, canceled contracts, and, most damaging of all, a collapse of trust among her partners. Some of his Ever's products have even been exposed as white label goods, mass-produced items simply repackaged with Meghan's branding and sold at premium prices. For many consumers, this has felt like a betrayal. They expected a brand infused with Meghan's values and vision, but instead found a polished version of products already available elsewhere. The lack of transparency and consistency has eroded confidence further. Commentators now argue that Meghan is seen less as an ambitious entrepreneur and more as a celebrity hoping to reap the rewards without doing the hard work. Analysts suggest her greatest weakness lies in her desire for recognition, coupled with an impatience for the long grind of building something lasting. Meghan wants immediate impact, to be embraced as a modern icon, but she appears unwilling to endure the testing phases of trial, error, and adjustment. As a result, her ventures often flare brightly at launch, then fizzle out, leaving behind doubts rather than achievements. From flaunting expensive jewelry, to leaning on her royal ties and children's image, to launching poorly managed projects, Meghan has found herself trapped in a counterproductive cycle. Instead of reinforcing the idea of an independent, creative woman with her own gravitational pull, she comes across as caught in contradiction, striving to be respected as a symbol, while still leaning heavily on past glories and outside relationships. The outcome has been predictable: repeated business setbacks, most notably with As Ever, the brand on which so many hopes, resources, and headlines had been pinned. If her image-building tactics have already weakened public trust, the real storm is now battering the heart of her most ambitious venture. As Ever was unveiled as a bold lifestyle brand, promising to fuse the refinement of high society with the warmth and relatability of a modern mother. Yet rather than becoming the next Goop, the comparison fans of Gwyneth Paltrow were quick to draw, As Ever is spiraling into crisis. Insiders are blunt. It's a disaster. No leadership, no direction, no money. Leaked financial reports suggest cash flow is dangerously tight. Sales have fallen far short of expectations, while the costs of marketing, office rentals, and mass production have soared. Suppliers have begun to complain about months-long payment delays. Several contracts have already collapsed, and alarmingly, some vendors are now threatening legal action unless debts are cleared. Lawsuits would not only create financial liabilities, but also shred the fragile credibility the brand has left. The gravest danger is not the outstanding sums themselves, but the hemorrhaging of trust. Employees, potential investors, and media partners alike see As Ever as a rudderless ship, no long-term growth plan, no coherent product strategy, and no true leader willing to take responsibility. Meghan, the founder, is said to remain more preoccupied with photo shoots and glossy PR campaigns than with the central question: how to keep the brand afloat. Sources warn of a bleak outlook. Without a significant financial rescue, As Ever could collapse within months. And the name most often floated as the potential savior is none other than Prince Harry. Comparisons have already been made to David Beckham, stepping in to shore up Victoria's struggling fashion label. But the question looms: does Harry have the means, and more importantly, the will, to bankroll a brand the market is already rejecting? And if he does, would it only cement the perception of Meghan as dependent, rather than an independent businesswoman? The crisis has been compounded by another blow: the lack of support from Netflix, her most valuable media partner since leaving the royal family. When As Ever launched, many assumed Meghan would cleverly weave product placement into her upcoming docuseries with Love, Meghan. But reality proved harsher. The episodes had already been filmed before the brand existed, leaving no opportunity for cross-promotion. Netflix, known for its notoriously strict content curation, has shown little appetite for turning Meghan's series into a dedicated promotional vehicle for as ever. Commentators argue this is a clear sign that the platform has little faith in Meghan's commercial draw. The most telling evidence? To this day, there has been no official confirmation of a third season. The absence of such an announcement is, in effect, a tacit admission. Netflix doesn't believe the public's interest is strong enough to warrant further investment. For a fledgling brand, losing the backing of a global platform like Netflix is akin to losing its loudest amplifier. Without mainstream exposure, Meghan has been forced to rely on social media and scattered PR events, neither of which can generate the kind of momentum she desperately needs. As Ever is now trapped in a painful stalemate, unable to expand its customer base, while financial pressures continue to mount. Brand analysts suggest that Netflix hasn't simply withheld support, it has quietly distanced itself from Meghan altogether. Anonymous employees have revealed that, within Netflix, As Ever is regarded as a side project, not a priority, and that none of the company's major marketing campaigns make any mention of her brand. The implication is clear, whether Meghan admits it or not, she has lost a crucial launchpad she once relied upon. Put together with the financial turmoil, Netflix's indifference paints a bleak picture for As Ever. A brand born in a blaze of publicity and billed as the next lifestyle phenomenon is now teetering on the brink of collapse. More painfully, its failure threatens not just Meghan's image, but also Harry's, because in the public eye, her setbacks are inseparable from the couple's shared narrative. Supporters once believed leaving the royal family would open a new chapter for Meghan and Harry, one of freedom, creativity, and independence. Instead, what they have witnessed are repeated stumbles, unfulfilled ambitions, and mounting internal rifts. This is not simply a business failure. It is a failure to prove that the couple can thrive outside the gilded safety net of the monarchy. And while Meghan wrestles with her brand in crisis, Harry, once celebrated as the compassionate prince, is facing serious challenges of his own in the field he has long called his life's mission: philanthropy. If Meghan's struggles in business have raised doubts about her leadership, Harry's difficulties in the charity world raise an even more painful question. Are the couple losing hold of the very purpose they once claimed to embody? If Meghan's missteps have blurred her image, Harry's philanthropic ventures, once his proudest calling card, are now spiraling into crises of their own. Organizations he has been associated with since his royal days, once hailed as proof of his humanitarian spirit, are now mired in controversy. To many, this has become an uncomfortable test of whether Harry is truly committed to his ideals, or simply using the cloak of charity to sustain his celebrity relevance. Take Centabele, the charity Harry co-founded to support children affected by HIV/AIDS in Lesotho. It was once heralded as proof of his determination to step out of the royal shadow and make a difference. Yet instead of cementing a positive legacy, Centabele has recently been engulfed by internal conflict. A high-profile row with its chair, Sophie Chandoka, ended with Harry stepping back, exposing the uncomfortable reality that his role was more symbolic than executive. For a man once praised as the people's prince of compassion, walking away from his brainchild under such public strain has dealt a bruising blow to his image. But that is not the end of it. At African parks, where Harry still holds a board seat, allegations of human rights abuses in Congo and the Central African Republic have sparked global outrage. Critics claim that conservation efforts have been accompanied by violent crackdowns on local communities, with fundamental rights trampled in the process. And while the backlash grows louder, Harry has remained silent, continuing to occupy his position of influence. To many, his silence makes him not a humanitarian leader, but a complicit bystander. Once cast as a figure of justice and protection, the prince now finds himself entangled in allegations of repression, a contradiction that threatens to shatter what remains of the public's fragile trust. The Invictus Games, once hailed as Harry's proudest achievement, have not escaped the swirl of crisis either. More than 2,000 former participants, veterans and wounded servicemen and women, have gradually withdrawn, accusing Harry and Meghan of turning the games into little more than a PR stage. What was meant to honor sacrifice and resilience has, in the eyes of many, been reshaped into a media spectacle where the spotlight shines far more on the Sussexes than on the true heroes. For many, it feels like a bitter betrayal, a project born from compassion, now hijacked in service of celebrity and the desperate pursuit of relevance. And as the setbacks pile up, Harry's aura has all but faded. No longer seen as a royal who carried a sense of duty, he is increasingly cast as a polarizing media personality. His public attacks on the royal family, and his father, his brother, even the late Queen Elizabeth II, have left deep marks in the public consciousness, cementing an image of Harry as rebellious, selfish, destructive rather than constructive. Today, when he appears in public, the figure people see is not a prince with purpose, but a celebrity clinging to his platform. The most striking example of this disconnect came during commemorations for VJ Day, the 80th anniversary of victory over Japan in the Second World War. Rather than standing alongside King Charles and Queen Camilla at official ceremonies, Harry staged a separate wreath-laying of his own. What might, on the surface, have looked like a gesture of respect was instead widely read as an attempt to upstage his father and stepmother, a move that revived unwelcome memories of his previous snubs towards Queen Elizabeth II. To many, it was not simply disrespectful to history and nation, but a stark display of ego, self-assertion placed above collective remembrance. In response to mounting criticism, the Sussexes have attempted to rebuild their image by assembling a PR team in Britain. Names like Cameron Walker and Charlotte Griffiths are reported to be instrumental in shaping narratives and steering coverage. Yet rather than restore trust, this strategy has fueled suspicion. Whispers abound that many of the so-called leaks to the press are in fact carefully scripted maneuvers, orchestrated dramas designed to sway public perception. And when the sense of truth itself becomes blurred, whatever trust remains is almost impossible to win back. Taken together, the portrait of Harry today bears little resemblance to the passionate prince who once stepped outside palace walls to fight for justice and compassion. Instead, he appears entangled in contradictions, abandoning Senate and acrimony, staying silent on human rights allegations at African parks, allowing the Invictus Games to become a PR showcase, even overshadowing his own father on a day of national memory. Add to this a shadowy media machine, and every attempt at reinvention rings hollow. These are not mere PR missteps or isolated failures. Layered together, they weave a chaotic and unsettling picture of Harry, and by extension, of Meghan. Once, the public believed the couple left the monarchy in pursuit of freedom and authenticity. Now, what people see is contradiction and disorder, a stage littered with broken promises and empty rhetoric. It is this chaos that defines their image today, a picture in which the line between sincerity and calculation grows ever harder to discern. And perhaps this is only the beginning, the opening chapter of an even stormier crisis to come. In this turbulent context, the question goes far beyond Harry and Meghan's private struggles. It touches on the very future of the monarchy's image in the eyes of a global audience. Every move, every choice they make is dissected under the unforgiving glare of the media, turning personal rifts into international talking points. Some argue the fractures in their relationship are an inevitable product of fame, scrutiny, and estrangement from the royal fold. Others still believe that, if their bond is genuine, they can endure and emerge stronger. But Meghan and Harry are no longer ordinary figures. They carry the weight of history, the burden of legacy, and a love story once imagined as the bright, modern future of the monarchy. Today, that story teeters on an uncertain edge. What do you think? Can Meghan and Harry overcome this crisis to reaffirm their love and unity? Or are we witnessing the prelude to a definitive end? A sobering reminder that even the most admired love stories can collapse under the crushing weight of power and publicity? Public opinion is split. Some still hope they will prevail. Others believe the fractures run too deep. Perhaps only time will tell. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your empathy or your skepticism is a reflection of how the world views this controversial royal saga. And don't forget to follow us for more of the latest updates from inside the House of Windsor.